get it. You know, the last #1 pound-for-pound fighter that I gave a rat's ass about was Chocolatito, because that was kind of like a project of mine. That was like a mission. Like this dude, because honestly, I thought
got bashed a lot.
By assholes, by losers, by bums, by folks who obviously haven't been watching boxing, by folks who probably don't know that the strawweight division exists and probably never seen a 105-pound title fight. You know what I'm saying? Folks who weren't paying attention to him when he was a junior flyweight. These are folks who didn't know he existed before he made his pro debut. I'm sorry, his not US, but his HBO debut against Edgar Sosa.
Because they say he was an HBO hype job now, and I said, well, he was 44-0.
He was 40. I think he was 42-0 entering that fight, and a 3-division champion. But HBO was hyping him. No, he created his own hype. And here's what I'm saying. And you guys can go and check like Ellie Seckback videos or whatever. In 2012, before Chocolatito fought Juan Estrada, I was saying this dude's pound for pound. This dude is one of the best fighters in all of boxing. If you haven't heard of him, you need to look him up and you need to watch his fights. So if you were aware of Chocolatito, and I was aware of him before he won his first title. I think he was back when I was with Max Boxing. I think he was my prospect for the year of 2007, and we actually got a tape from Taken Promotions. And that we digitized, and we played, I think it was a first-round blowout of a guy who had taken the WBA strawweight champ at the time, Nida. Yeah, I forget his first name.
But I don't want to pretend.
Yeah, but his last name is Niida.
I only knew Ivan Calderon in that division.
Oh, there you go. Calderon was, but see, you were aware of the strawweight division, and for me, you know, there was Ricardo Lopez. I saw his fights, you know what I mean? I saw maybe his last strawweight fight, and I saw his run at junior flyweight. We got to cover some of his fights before he's retired. Maybe his last 2 or 3 fights or whatever. But as great as Ricardo Lopez was, and he retired unbeaten, right? 51 victories, no losses, 1 draw against a hell of a fighter. As great as he was at strawweight, once he stepped up to 108 pounds, he hit a ceiling. He was not the same guy. He still won, but man, he was going life and death. He had to really battle it out to get those victories. Chocolatito was a monster at 105, stepped up to 108, and was still a badass, still blowing guys out. And then he stepped up to 112 pounds flyweight, and he was still dominant. And sometimes he'd be taking the decision, sometimes he'd be taking it into the late rounds, but he was still, for the most part, whacking guys out of there. He kept challenging himself. I mean, that's what to me, that's pound for pound, is you challenge yourself against the best fighters in more than one weight class. If you clean out a weight class, go up. Keep looking for challenges. Chocolatito did that. He goes up to junior bantamweight, super flyweight, 115, and physically you could see he had his hands full with Cuadras, you know. And then he fights the Thai guy, which was life and death. It was a battle.
Was it size or age that was catching up to him, or both?
Both, because 30 years old is like 35 for a heavier fighter. And let's remember, he's been world class. He had been, by the time he lost to Rungvisai this year, Chocolatito had been world class championship level for 9 years. Over 4 weight classes. That's unprecedented for those flyweight, strawweight weight class. Unprecedented. You know,
consider the style he fights in too.
And exactly, he's unlike Finito Lopez, who did have a long reign. He wasn't this technical guy who boxes on the outside. You know, Lopez was a technical fighter with a one-hitter-quitter power at strawweight. Chocolatito's a grinder. It's pressure and volume. And that with their just natural higher metabolisms because they're smaller men. And just the quality of the opposition down there, they usually burn out. Like a strawweight, junior flyweight champ is usually finished by their late 20s. Like for them, that's like late 30s, you know.
You would have to study the division to know that.
You would have to. So, but all those folks throwing shade, I think they had an agenda. I mean, they didn't like him being in that #1 spot, and they felt threatened by him, and that's pitiful. You don't have to recognize him as #1 pound for pound, but don't shit on him when he loses a fight. That's what's wrong with boxing fans these days.
They go from he wasn't #1 pound for pound to he sucked. I mean, there's no in between. There's no Hall of Fame.
Or to that Rungvisai was a complete bum and a nobody with a built-up record. To he'd already been exposed and all this just garbage. It's like, do you have any idea the level of the guys that he's fighting? Do you have any idea how much he's given of himself before you ever saw him on HBO? They don't. And the thing is, if you have no idea, shut up. Don't talk. That's like people trying to like rate somebody, you know, in a historical perspective. Like this person is one of the top 10 or 15 fighters of all time. And I ask them, name, right now off the top of your head, name 10 great fighters. And they say, and they can't name anyone beyond the four kings from the 80s, Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis. And they might throw in Ray Robinson. And I'm like, so that's all? Those are all the great fighters of all time? I'm like, okay. You know, or I'll say so-and-so's one of the greatest welterweights of all time. I say name 5 who are in the Hall of Fame. And they can't.
There's always a great fighter you never heard about.
Or they name somebody that wasn't a welterweight, you know, or whatever. It's just like, if you don't know the history, don't put it in that perspective. And if you don't follow every division, if you're not following everybody, why try to rank them in a pound-for-pound sense? That doesn't make any sense. Because when you do that, what you're doing is it's like a popularity contest or just who you like.
Right.
Some folks, they give me their pound-for-pound, and I'm like, you just gave me your favorite fighters. And a lot of them are really good, elite fighters, but if you don't know everyone, you know, if you're not following everything, why even bother ranking them? Just enjoy the fights.
Thanks, Dougie. You're the man.
Sorry to get on the soapbox.
No,
All right.
great.
All right. Good to see you, Sean.